I think it's time. I think it's time I told you all this secret that I've kept for almost a year at this point. If you look on YouTube right now for a Stasis Hunter build, vast majority of them, if not all of them, are suggesting Renewal Grass with the Dustfield Grenade as the core components of your build. The idea is that Dustfield with Renewal Grass gives you a ton of damage resistance and is a very strong way to freeze a lot of targets and things like that. But what if I told you there is a whole different way you could play instead? That's what I'm bringing you today. One of your grenade options as a Stasis Hunter is the Glacier Grenade, which creates a wall of stasis crystals. However, Hunters uniquely get an aspect called Touch of Winter, which changes the Glacier Grenade to be a ring formation instead of a line formation. You may be wondering, well, that's cool and all, but what's the practical application of having this in a ring formation? Well, you could do this. You now have ice crystals all around you. With the Glacier Grenade setup that I am suggesting, your Glacier Grenade not only turns into an AoE damage tool, but it also turns into a panic button when you need to correct your terrible, terrible decisions playing Destiny 2. Let's get into it. Subclass-wise, a lot of this is very straightforward. You have Silence and Squall for your super, because that's the only one you can pick. Gambler's Dodge is just kind of nice to throw alongside for Withering Blade, because Withering Blade, you get 2 stacks of this, and each one applies 60 slow stacks, and at 100 slow stacks, you freeze a target, which means if you throw 2 of these on the same target, they will freeze. So it's kind of nice to have around, just in case. Glacier Grenade, obviously. For aspects, go with Touch of Winter to get the proper ring formation. This is crucial. And then for the second aspect, I go with Shatter Dive. The reason why is because if you want to convert your Glacier Grenade into an AoE damage tool, the quickest way is to shatter all the crystals at the same time. Shatter Dive does this very effectively. There's also the nice bonus that if you have Shatter Dive as your second aspect, you could do this. Yeah, that's right. You can Shatter Skate on this build, which, I think is a nice touch. For fragments, go with Whisper of Chains so that you get some damage resist while you're inside your igloo. Pick Whisper of Fissures to make a bigger blast zone whenever you destroy crystals. Whisper of Shards is there to boost your grenade recharge rate, and this will be super nice, especially since we're shattering all of our crystals whenever we can, so this will just be super good to keep our grenade in tip-top shape. Whisper of Fraction goes really well with any sort of stasis weapons with Headstone or any a lot of stasis exotics. So I kind of like going with this just to keep the class ability going as well. There's no specific exotic armor piece that you need to get this build working, since it's mostly revolving around the grenade itself. So some good exotic armor options are Mask of Bacchus if you want to boost up some damage. If you want to throw on Lucky Pants, this is not a bad idea. The one that I like going with is Frosties. Frosties improves grenade, melee, and dodge regeneration whenever you sprint, and dodging increases your sprint speed. I just go with this just to keep my grenade in ultra tip-top shape. So if you want to get as many grenades out in the field as possible, this is the way to go. It also comes with the added bonus of having a really cool cosmetic ornament, where you could make it look like hiking boots, which I think is kind of cool. I mentioned before weapon-wise that any sort of stasis weapon with Headstone works really well, but I want to make a shout-out to 2 exotic stasis weapons in particular. One is Verglass Curve, which can create a lot of stasis crystals as part of its exotic description, and this does factor into your grenade recharge, so that's pretty useful. Another one I want to mention is Ager's Scepter. It's just one of the best add clear tools in the game, and it synergizes really well with any sort of stasis build, so this deserves a shout out as well. For your mods should look a little something like this. The goal of this build is to give our grenades a lot of uptime. So we have Grenade Kickstart, we have a couple orb generation mods like Reaper, Harmonic Siphon, and the idea is that whenever we pick up an orb, we get our grenade cooldown reduced. I threw in Orbs of Restoration just to continue feeding into ability regen. And everything else is pretty much up to your preference. I like throwing in Powerful Attraction and Bomber as well, just to keep up the grenade ability uptime and things like that. More or less it looks something like this. There's a few advanced tricks I want to also mention about the Glacier Grenade. The first thing to note is that it works really well on flat surfaces, but not as well on a more jagged surface. So take, for example, this thing over here. If I throw it here, it kind of throws things a little awkward, right? There's like no place to actually like stand on the inside. So if you were like standing here and you threw the grenade, it might look a little fun. So this works best on flat surfaces. Sloped surfaces are okay though. Like for example, this is a sloped surface, and this works just fine. This will serve most cases. It's just perfectly fine. But just be wary of any sharp edges or anything like that. So for example, don't throw it over here, or else you pop yourself up. And it becomes a problem. Also, while the grenades do work really well on flat surfaces, some surfaces cannot make grenades whatsoever. For example, any surface that can move, whether it's like a moving platform or it's a door that's supposed to open up, those surfaces cannot hold a stasis crystal. Therefore, your grenade will just not exist on that surface. So try not to throw it on those surfaces either. That's all I had for today's video. I'm so glad to be able to share this secret with you guys. It's actually a long story where I actually wanted to get a video around this igloo playstyle since Lightfall came out, actually, or even since Season of the Seraph, but for reasons I won't disclose, it just sort of took a long time, and now it's out there. So I'm glad that the secret wasn't spilled in the meantime, and I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this. This was a lot of fun for me to experiment with. And with the new changes in the upcoming season where Bungie has promised buffs to the Stasis subclasses, I expect this build to have some decent traction. And if there's any really significant updates to this build in the next season, I'll make note of it. Good luck, Guardians, getting more and more candy, since right now it's still Festival of the Lost. Alright, bye-bye!